Welcome to another episode of Got Time with Christopher John, your scholar and gentleman in a hoodie. You remember that scene in The Best Man between Murch and Candy when Murch recites a quote by Audre Lorde? That was my introduction to Audre Lorde. Audre Lorde was a feminist poet. She attended Hunter College where she earned a bachelor's degree. She also earned a master's degree in library science from Columbia University. She worked as a librarian at Mount Vernon Public Library in Mount Vernon, New York until 1963. During her lifetime, she published 12 books. Audre claimed that poetry was her first language, saying that when she was young, she often responded to questions in the form of poetry to avoid occasional stuttering. Her poetry embodied love, fear, racial and sexual oppression, survival, and struggle. In 1968, she was awarded a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. The self-described Black lesbian mother warrior promoted self-care. For Audre, self-care wasn't just burning a candle, sipping herbal tea, or any other form of consumerism. Self-care was both the sustenance that sustained her ability to enact change and to take radical action. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's a reminder to encourage us to think about coping strategies amid our challenges, whether it means the kind of everyday struggles we confront or more serious triggers and distress. This month and beyond, it's essential for us to move beyond self-care to true resilience with meaningful ways to incite self-empowerment. Joining me is a notable sociologist. Dr. Rodney Coates has researched and teaching expertise in critical pedagogy, critical race theory, race and ethnic relations, stratification, human rights and social justice, educational sociology, political processes, urban sociology, political sociology, and public sociology. Woo! In addition to his academic pursuits, Rodney is a remarkable poet and photographer, and has also been a dear friend of mine for many years, Dr. Rodney Coates. But that's the last time I'm going to call you doctor for this conversation.
Thank you.
It's Rodney.
That's what we're talking about, okay?
Thank you so much for joining me today and taking the time. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for inviting me, sir. This is important work you're doing.
Well, we do it together.
Yes, sir.
We do it together. I mean, this venture into being a podcaster is something new for me this year. But I've been blessed to have, a great producer, but also to have good friends, knowledgeable intellectuals like yourself that's making time, to join me on these episodes. And so it's much appreciation to you.
My honor, sir.
Now, we're going to get into talking about preserving our peace and joy amid, chaotic times and chaos. But, while I have you here, I definitely want to talk about the current state of critical race theory. And I became aware of, I guess, the subject matter way back 5 years ago in 2020.
Yes, sir.
When I was asked, I believe it was like, we got to get critical race theory out of schools. And they decided to come to me as representing the museum that I was representing for me to have, to talk about it.
Right.
And I said, I don't know what this is. And where are they teaching it at? I had no clue. And so at the time, I did my quick research and I provided my insight on it. And I just looked at it, the bare bones is like, if it's anything where you're trying to eradicate the truth out of the social reality, then that's a bad thing. And so can you talk about, with you being a scholar and an intellectual in this discipline, can you talk a little bit about the current state of the discipline?
Okay, let me talk about my journey into this area. It was 2016. Donald Trump was in his first presidency of this country, and something strange happened. New York Times came out with the 1619 Project, and almost immediately Donald Trump castigated, kicked it to the corner, was upset about it, denied access to federal government employees and such, and says, no, we're going to push the 1776 story. I'm listening to this, what the hell? 1776, 1619. And I thought about W.B. Du Bois. Du Bois says in The Souls of Black Folks, what does it mean to be black in America? It's to be black and an American, two unreconcilable spirits in one dark body. And I'm thinking 1619, 1776, two unreconcilable stories in one nation. What is the tension? We've all were brought up on 1776. This is in 1492. Columbus sailed the blue, discovered America, and George Washington threw $1 across the Potomac, and Abraham Lincoln never told a lie, and then he freed the black folks. 1619 is the story of America from the vantage point of the African, not the slave, not an object, but a person with agency, not reacting to being a slave, but America reacting to him being a black man resisting the institution of slavery. The black never became a slave. You see, to become a slave, you must internalize this status, okay? To internalize this status means you accept your objectification and saying that you are only a slave. No, okay? The African never became a slave. He constantly reacted and resisted, okay, to this. And it was that resistance to this that America became an object, okay? Why? Because it's constantly reacting to the African, okay? Okay, what did it do? The very first thing it did was, in reference to the Haitian rebellion, scared the crap out of white elite males in this country. Why? Because these Africans rebelled and kicked the slave system out of Haiti, okay? Oh, France reacted to that by pulling all of its colonies. He says, you know what, we can't keep this going. And so America got the largest tract of land called the Louisiana Purchase because of a slave rebellion. Then what did it do? How did it want to control these Africans? It says, you know what? We're going to deny them access to education. Because education will ruin any good slave. That's where we're at right now. Okay?
Well,
it's about controlling the slave, trying to make you a slave, okay, by keeping you stupid about who you are. Okay? And by the way, the leading cause of death in some of our communities is a black man killing another black man. Fourth leading cause of death, black homicide. Why? These young brothers don't know who they are. Malcolm X once said, who told you you were a nigger? Who told you you were useless? Who told you, okay, that you had no destiny? Okay? All right? Who told you that? They are a liar. Okay? And of course, he had to be assassinated because he also pushed the truth.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about those dynamics, and when you talk about education,
Yeah.
you know, well, I mean, we're going through that right now.
Yeah.
And it's being, the education is being attacked or
Yeah.
bridged on every level,
Yes.
from elementary even all the way
All
up
the
to
through
high.
college
Yeah.
and research, the whole 9 yards. Yes.
So how are you being a part of the academic community, higher learning community? How are you mitigating and navigating the current climate?
Bottom line is this: I'm going to teach the truth. Okay? You can fire me, but you can't stop me from engaging my students in the truth. Okay? And yes, I teach at a predominantly white elite institution. Okay? I'm teaching critical race theory. And somebody said, well, how does that work out? I mean, and I say it was quite simple. I start off by helping the Irish to realize that, guess what? You were the first forced labor in this country, not the blacks. You were the first group, okay? And why? Because you were Catholic and because you were Irish, and the English forced you into this country, okay? They didn't have enough of you. So what did they do? Then they wanted to import the Africans. But guess what? You have suffered discrimination since the very point when you came into this country all the way up to this time. Guess what? The Ku Klux Klan said no Jews, no blacks, and oh yes, no Catholics need apply. All right? You were a targeted group. All right? That's the beginning of this, right? And we talk about, for example, so what happened when the Irish servants and the African servants, they were servants, they were not slaves, okay, in 1619, okay? They did something radical in Virginia. They banded together and they wanted to have a revolution, okay? It was called Bacon's Rebellion. It scared the kahoonies out of elite white males. Oh, put a pin in it right there. This stuff about white privilege, white fragility, white guilt, that assumes that all whites are the same. No, they're not. There were some whites that were on our side, allies, okay, that got punished. There were some whites that got lynched along with blacks. Why? Because they were on our side and they were helping us. The Underground Railroad, guess what? It would not have existed if it hadn't been for whites on our side that provided us access to their basements and cellars and so forth and so on. Again, I don't want whites. They don't want whites to know that portion of their history, okay? They want to keep them ignorant of that, okay? Oh, how did the elite white males respond to shutting down of Virginia and the rebellion? They convinced the Irish that they were white and that they had privilege, okay? And they elevated them just an inch above the Africans. And then they created slavery, okay? And every time elite white males have been challenged, they go out and convince poor whites that their privileges are being threatened by these people of color, okay? And they need to band together. Oh, the real issue, why did Martin Luther King get assassinated? He was not a threat when he was talking about black and civil rights. Oh, no.
Poor People's Campaign.
He did that Poor People's Campaign, and he started talking to poor whites and poor Hispanics and poor Native Americans and poor Africans and poor women, okay? And now all of a sudden, it's, oh, no, we can't have this, all right? Because that's a populist movement that if he is successful, they will come after us. And so what did they do? They convinced poor whites that they were going to lose their privilege. That's why we're at this point right now. Elite white males For the first time, again, in the history, they're in an existential moment where they're watching their power disappear. Okay?
And when you talked about that, I think about Fred Hampton, because
Yes,
he
sir.
did the same
Yes,
exact
sir.
work.
Yes,
And
sir.
his fate was Chicago police.
Yes, sir.
And what occurred there,
Yes, sir.
them assassinating him.
Yes, sir.
basically. Yeah.
Okay, and by the way, so we go through this history of assassinating or ridiculing or curtailing or shutting down these voices. Okay, I mean you can go all the way back to you can talk about Frederick Douglass, Terrell. You go all the way up to our current era. Okay, Audre Lorde. Okay, Audre Lorde, who by the way made the following statement. I had to pull it up. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation.
Yes.
And that is an act of political warfare. Really. Warfare. We're at war. What's the war about? Me feeling good about myself. You want to piss off the racist? Be happy. Be joyful. Okay? All right? And be dedicated to expanding your horizons. Okay? Be successful. This moment we're in right now, we're in because of our success. Okay? And why are they attacking educational systems from preschool through college and graduate school?
Because that has been our way to uplift
ourselves.
ourselves.
The civil rights movement was all about expanding educational opportunities.
I will even go back further than that. Is that initial generation after the Civil War, you saw former enslaved folks, or the first generation of freedmen, men and women, I should say, schools, education,
HBCUs.
churches. I just learned. So the movie Sinners came out, and they make a reference to Mount Bayou, Mississippi.
Yes, sir.
Never heard of Mount Bayou, and then I was able to find a connection, and it was this community that thrived for like 25 years in Mississippi, in Delta, Mississippi. They had churches, they had schools, they had vocational schools, they had this infrastructure.
Yeah.
And they called it the jewel of the Delta.
Right. Oh, let me add to that. These Africans, after slavery was ended, what did they do? They went and created communities throughout the South, okay? Black communities. The center of those were schools and churches and economic institutions, okay? How did whites respond to that, elite whites? White riots targeting black communities. Here in Cincinnati, there were 3 separate racial riots targeting the black community. Black economically, political, and cultural centers that were viable.
But what's fascinating when you were talking about the Irish, the very first riot, which would have been in
1880?
No.
Oh, you're talking before that?
Before that. I believe it's 1829.
Yes, sir.
And it was 500 Irish immigrants.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so you see this turn to where they had bought into that narrative. I'm white. I'm not Irish. I am white. And black folks, black communities, you are my opposition.
Oh, by the way, how does one demonstrate their whiteness? By targeting black. Okay? Oh. How do police officers demonstrate that they're good cops? You ask those 6 black in Nashville, Tennessee that jumped on that other black man. We talk about police violence targeting black communities. Well, guess what? You got black cops targeting black communities too, demonstrating, oh, I'm a good cop. Okay, so how do you demonstrate that you are a good? What did that black guy say to Donald Trump during the? I love you. Okay, so you got some black folks, black men in particular, okay, and Hispanic, that were all up in the Republican campaign in this last election, supporters of Donald Trump, okay? Guess what? They didn't get the payoff that they thought that they were going to get, okay? Oh, poor whites, it's a lot of them are ticked off right now because they thought we thought you were going to go after them. You coming after us. What's this about? Okay, we're the ones losing our jobs, okay? We're the ones losing our access to medical care. We're the ones that our kids are not going to go to college. We're the ones that are seeing the budgets to our school system slashed, okay? We thought you were just going to ban their books and ban gay folks and ban all of this. Well, damn, okay? We're hurting. Guess what? You can't come after us unless you come after them. And now you realize that you didn't have that privilege that you thought you had. Okay?
It's the idea of bracing that we've always understood that we're connected.
Yes.
And so, but there is this narrative that you want to be isolated. And that's not the reality.
No.
I want to make this, I definitely want to make this pivot into, in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month and thinking about our mental health, and you being, and many of us being so aware of the social realities that we're dealing with. Who or what inspires you to keep your righteous mind? How do you bring yourself to be able to smile, as you talked about, and so forth?
You know what my mother, God bless her, used to say? You can have my money, my car, my house, hell, you can even have my life. The one thing you can't have is my joy. It took me years to realize what she meant. I came across a scripture where it says, the joy of the Lord is my strength. So if you take my joy, you take my strength. Have you ever wondered how the African so-called slave could sing about old happy days?
Right.
And joy coming in the morning? How they could be in the midst of this hot sun and picking cotton, okay? And their hands are bleeding from the thorns, but they're able to sing, okay? And dance, all right? Because, one, they had hope for tomorrow. You and I, they saw us in a vision, sitting here, celebrating them.
The hope and dreams of our ancestors.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. It says your old men will see visions and your young will dream dreams. Well, guess what? We are those dreams and those visions. What keeps me joyful is the visions and the dreams that we see our young people and our old people today for tomorrow. Okay. I see our young people, and you know what? There is nothing more spectacular than to see a young person's mind open up. The most revolutionary thing you can do is educate somebody, okay? And to watch their mind break open, okay? I am part of a few years ago at Miami University, it's about 10 so years ago, it's summertime. I'm leaving a class, and I'm on my way to class, and I see about 50 little black kids with a guide walking around the campus. And I said, what the hell? I mean, Miami University, you don't see 50 black kids on a regular basis. Hell, you never see 55 kids, okay? And so I stopped the person and said, what's this about? He said, oh, we're from Cincinnati Public Schools, and we're here touring the campus and everything. And I said, have you been to any classes? He said, no. I said, follow me. Make room for them. They're in my class. They were sitting up front. Okay, I'm doing my lecture, and they start asking questions and all of this, And my own students are sitting and say, wow, they're more into this than we are. Okay. That became a regular feature. Okay. We wound up creating a partnership with the Cincinnati Public Schools, where we give out about 10 to 15 scholarships, full scholarships to Cincinnati Public School kids. We have about 70 kids on campus right now from Cincinnati Public Schools, okay? That some have all graduated. By the way, they have the highest GPA of any students on campus, okay, cohort. About 4 years ago, we started summer camps, a 5-day summer camp. They live on campus. 4 nights, 5 days, a STEM camp, okay, where some of the best and brightest minds at Miami will have them in robotics, chemistry labs, biology labs, business school, okay, art. They had a computer engineer talk about the engineering of a guitar. Okay,
Right.
and the mathematics associated with blues. Okay, making these connections. The kids came in and they said, we're going to be with our phones for all day and for four days, and these same kids were in tears to leave the university.
Wow.
We're now in the 4th year of this. We've had 4 different group of kids. And the idea is that, well, how do I have my joy? Because I'm able to use my position to bring in these kids who never would think about college. And by the way, you got to get on their radar. You want kids to dream?
You got to get on their
You
level.
got to get on their level when they're in the 6th and 7th and 8th grade, okay? Because that's when you want them to start dreaming about what their future can look like, okay? All right, and guess what? We can see, all right? So what gives me joy? What gives me joy is the fact that we can impact the future, okay? I just saw a movie a couple of weeks ago that absolutely is transformative. It's called The Forge.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Okay, it is a phenomenal movie, and I won't be a spoiler, but it's written by blacks, 2 blacks, and 4 black men. Okay, and it challenges us, those of us who are older and know a little bit about life, to mentor our young brothers, many of which are growing up in households without a father, which is intentional, okay? It's intentional, all right? So what would happen, Joy? What happens when we can, and if we were to take it as our mission in life to mentor a young man, okay? One, just one, okay? All right? How transformative could that be?
I speak, I was part of a program called Play It Smart. And the first group of young men, they were ranged from 14 to 17 years old. And it was across the river, Holmes High School in Covington, Kentucky. And these young men, a lot of them, did not have the best home environment.
Hello.
And I was their academic coach. My position was to get them ready for life after high school,
Mm-hmm.
whether that would be getting in the job force, going to vocational school, going to college. Some of them had dreams of playing college football, all that, to help them navigate them
Mm-hmm.
through that process. And these young men gravitated towards me, and I became their mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're talking about this has been 20 plus years ago.
Mm-hmm.
These young men are grown, good and
Hello.
grown men,
Yes, sir.
and they still call me today. They don't call me coach; they call me uncle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
Your family.
and when you were talking about what gives you joy and giving back and mentoring those young people, every time I have a conversation with them, every time I visit them, every time I will go to, like, when they got married and they invite me to the ceremony, when they call me up, hey, I'm a father, I have a child. It brings me joy.
Hello.
And so you are right about that mentoring ship
Mm-hmm.
of being a conduit to bring
Yes, sir.
purpose to your life.
Yes, sir.
And doing that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
By the way,
powerful.
the system wants you to believe it's about the money.
Mm,
Okay? It's about stuff.
right.
Okay? And that's why my mother said, you can have my money. You can have my stuff. Okay? That does not bring me joy. Okay? All right? What brings me joy is talking to you, making a connection with one of my brothers or sisters. By the way, that's white, black, green, blue, LGBTQ. I don't give a damn what. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not going to judge you. Judge ye lest ye also be judged. Okay? Okay? My job is not to judge you or to condemn you. Okay? My job is to say, you know what? I love you. Okay? When I see you, hello. When I see you, I see the God in you. Okay? And I see the possibilities of what God has for you. Okay? And so what's my job? My job is to say, guess what? You can achieve whatever your dreams lead you to. Now, that don't mean you can do any damn thing you want to do. Okay, Stevie Wonder wanted to be a airplane pilot, and you know, he wanted to be a race car driver. Okay, that wasn't gonna happen. Okay,
But what he could do is it's a bit funny you mentioned Stevie Wonder. There's always been this comment that people said, "What Stevie writes the songs he writes? I know that man can see, because there's how in the world can." But that just shows you that the power, the innate power,
yeah,
with your mind,
spiritual.
so the yes, that spiritual connection,
vision.
yes.
Okay,
It's a difference
By the
between
way,
sight and vision.
I can see stuff in my spirit that I don't see with my eyes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And if we let our eyes dictate what we see, guess what? We're blind. All right? We're blind. Okay? But if you're walking with your inner eye, as my Muslim friends would say, and there's an instance, you pull out that dollar, you see this really goes back to Africa, okay, where you see a pyramid and you'll see an eye. What are they trying to tell you? They're trying to tell you there's an inner eye, okay? Yeah. There's a spiritual dimension that when we say we the people, okay? We the people, that spiritual connection, okay? That's why the scripture says, when two or three of you gather together in my name, so shall I be in the midst. And if you all are on one accord, getting together, then you can accomplish anything because I'll be with you. The system wants you to hate each other, to fight against each other, to kill each other, not to love each other, okay? To be non-judgmental about each other, okay? How do you get to that? By understanding our common history.
Yes.
And that history is not It's not about struggle and obstacles. It's about overcoming and celebration.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I actually want to. I think it's. I don't want to just be lost, especially my viewers and listeners that are not familiar. You know, Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, has this very unique and very profound national narrative in history.
Yeah.
I became exposed to it with the Freedom Summer.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that aren't aware, Freedom Summer was a this program to where students of all different backgrounds went to the campus of Miami University to learn about strategies in getting voter registration.
Yeah.
And these are the very individuals that would hop on buses to go down into the Deep South to register. Mostly, you know, black and brown folks, mostly black folks, to get them registered to vote. They sacrifice their time, but they also, many of them sacrifice their lives in doing this. And so it's amazing that Miami University, you know, has that piece of history. And you're actually, through your academic work, you are carrying that work on and that legacy on through your work.
What people don't, first of all, technically that was Western school for women.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the technical reality. And they wind up merging with Miami University. Okay? That's point two. What people fail to realize is the civil rights movement, it wasn't a movement, it was movements. Okay? Plural.
Yeah.
Second, those are a whole bunch of white folks, black too, but white folks coming out of colleges came down here. That's what Goodman, Sherman, and Brown that got killed in Mississippi summer within 30 days after leaving Miami University. Okay? All right? We failed to celebrate those whites who, without which there would not have been a freedom summer. One. Two, it was not only a black civil rights movement, it was a women's movement, it was a peace movement, it was an LGBTQ plus movement, it was an American Indian movement, it was an immigrant movement, okay? All of these movements were collectively working together, okay? All right? We tend to separate them out and say, well, you know what, the civil rights movement, and only concentrate on the black side of that, okay? All right, not realizing, you look at them, well, all these movements were happening together, and they're working together collaboratively and advancing this multi-tiered civil rights agenda, okay? That's why, by the way, they're attacking DE&I right now. They're attacking women, they're attacking blacks, they're attacking immigrants, they're attacking China. You know, you go down the list. They're attacking, they want to promote, well, anti-Semitism. Well, yes, the Jews were being attacked then and now. They joined with us, okay, in this collective struggle, okay? They want us to be divided. A house divided shall not stand. And so they want us pitted against the LGBTQ plus, pitted against women. Yes, let's be honest about it. White women were the number one beneficiary of affirmative action.
Well, let me ask you this, and I just want to make it plain. When you say they, in your mind, who are the they?
Okay. I'm talking specifically about elite white males.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Yep.
All right. And what are we talking about? We're talking about white replacement theory. What is white replacement theory? For the first time in the history of this country, demographics are saying that within 20 years, we're going to be a majority minority. The white population is declining in this country and around the world. Okay? All right? And so, and by the way, and this affects elite white males and their power structure. Okay? So that's why one of the first agenda items was abortion. They need more women, particularly white women, having more babies. Okay, that's why you have a J.D. Vance in the last election talking about cat ladies. That's why Donald Trump is saying, you know what, we need to reward women for having babies. Okay, we those that get 6 babies, we're going to give them, some kind of a premium. Okay, and yes, we need to bring back more jobs, men jobs. Okay, male jobs. Okay, for white men. Okay?
Yep.
That's the politic. And again, why? This is about elite white male fragility. They are concerned about losing their power base. They're looking, why are they attacking? Notice in the news, the tariffs, you got 145% tariff against China. Like China did all of this to get all these businesses and over there. No, that was American elite business corporations that made those deals to get those cheap products that undermine white and black labor in this country. Oh, and who is leading the charge against tariffs?
Right.
Hello. That's why you have Elon Musk that is cussing out the head of labor who is backing tariffs and Leon, look, my stocks are down 71%. Okay, I am losing money left and right. I'm sorry, I cannot support you down anymore. Okay, you won't see me walking around with a cheese hat and whatever. No, I've got to go back into the closet and make some money. Okay, and we need them colored people in China to make all them parts. Okay, the conservative white male elite wants us to believe it's us against them, when in reality it is us or nothing.
It's us or nothing.
Us or nothing. China has gone in. The last 2 major wars have been fought to control Africa. Called the scramble for Africa. Hitler, England, France. So why Africa? They have the greatest resource base of any continent in the world. What are their biggest fear? Is that they will do something that W.B. Du Bois and Kwame Nkrumah suggested, a United States of Africa. And they do what? They regulate the distribution of raw resources. Okay?
In fact, that's where W.E.B. Du Bois, that's where he left the
That's
United
in
States.
Ghana. That's why he left. And Nkrumah, who financed, it was Ghana that financed many of the colonial revolutions. Okay, and why did Europe leave Africa? Mainly because they knew that it was a divided house. All right, and they had access to all of these resources. All right, they don't want a united Africa. Okay, because think about it, Pacific Rim, Pacific oil-producing nations did what? They joined together to regulate oil. Before that, the Arab-producing nations were being pitted against each other and in constant conflict. All right, that's what we want to take place. Now, we want the Arab nations to fight against each other. We need Africa fighting internally and externally. Okay?
Right.
Okay. That's what happened to Haiti. We orchestrated 3 separate regime changes in Haiti, where we violated the democratic elected individuals and put in our puppets, okay, who caused the destabilization and the impoverization of Haiti. Haiti, coming full circle, where you saw the very first slave rebellion in the history of this country. And we have been punishing these Africans since that point in time.
You know, I want to make the pivot a little bit to make it a little bit more personal, if you don't mind. You know, a lot of this and what we can be going through seems to be overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know,
They
we talking
want it
about
to be.
all the executive orders that have come out since January, and it's just like piling on. And there's many people that may struggle with this in managing the stress of all that and having bouts of hopelessness. So what is personally your strategy? You talked about the words of your mother, holding on to that. Is there something else that you do, a strategy that maintains your combating against bouts of hopelessness personally? Can you talk about that?
Don't forget Senate Bill 1 here in the state of Ohio. Okay. Yes. Again, one, I keep writing. Okay. Critical Race Theory and the Search for Truth came out back in September. Okay. That got started when Trump was first in office. Okay. All right. What is our biggest weapon? The truth. Okay. So yes, I keep writing. All right. Yesterday I did a 1.5 hour interview with a writer for the Christian Science Monitor. She's in Belgium because of an article I wrote, okay, that got published and it's gotten international attention, okay. I publish small pieces that come out in something called The Conversation, all right, one of which dealt with critical race theory, another one dealt with the white-black fountains, okay. Another one dealt with the fentanyl and the tariff. Okay, another one that I'm working on right now, dealing with DE&I and why it's being attacked. Oh, I've gotten over 255,000 readers in the last two years just in these articles. Okay, what am I doing? We've got some skills. They want you to be frustrated. They want you to be stressed out. Okay, they want you to not do what you have special gifts to do. Okay?
Wow. Yes.
You want to piss them off? Operate in your giftings. Whatever, and everybody has some gifts. Okay? And all of those gifts serve to uplift those around you. Okay? Good. Lift them up. Use your gifts. Okay? Oh, and it's not about getting paid. They want you to be so focused on, oh, my job, what's going to happen if I lose my, because you know what? We have never been without work.
Right.
And we have never not gotten paid.
I think sometimes money can be, money is often the distraction.
It is a distraction. Okay? Yeah. The love of money is the root of all evil. Not money, but the love of money. Okay? I would not be, you would not be, most of the people that have made a significant contribution to civilization, to progress, have not been tied up by money. Okay? Jesus Christ was crucified because he chose to tell the truth. Socrates was forced to commit suicide because he chose to tell the truth. You go through the history of this country, our rich history is full of people that stood up and spoke truth to power. Damn what comes up. Come after me. Okay? Okay? I learned something in Vietnam. I'm a Vietnam veteran. Okay? You had some individuals that are afraid of dying, and they'll do anything to stay alive. Guess who's the first one that typically gets killed in combat?
Which one is?
Those that are trying their best to preserve their lives. Okay?
Yep. Yep.
Okay? Really? So what makes you free? And by the way, people talk about we're all cowards, we're all afraid. Okay? But what makes a hero versus a coward is a hero is someone who acts in their fear to do the right thing.
And we're called to do that. We're called to do that right now.
Yes, sir.
It's urgent.
Yes,
It's
sir.
urgent. You talked about your writing, and you often share. I've been blessed. You done share some things with me. I've asked if you could share with my viewers and my listeners. Um, you did this. You shared this piece with me. Black mandates. Very powerful. You also presented it with one of your photographs, which I
Yes.
think is powerful. Um, and it's actually used as the part of the cover for this episode.
Thank you.
Could you just recite Black mandates for my viewers and listeners, and just bless us with that, if you don't mind?
Black survival is not an option. It is a mandate from the 40 million souls lost in the Middle Passage. Black achievement is not an option. It is a mandate decreed through the tears of 120 million forced to endure the shackles of slavery. Decolonization of the Black mind is not an option. It is mandated by the objectification of the Black body, by the laws dictating ignorance of the Black child, and by the sublimation of the Black genius in the name of whiteness. Liberation of the Black body is not an option. It is mandated by a system that created the myth of the Black whore and the pimp. It is mandated by a system that glorifies in Black nudity but vilifies Black reality. It is mandated by a system that justifies Black violence yet condemns Black resilience. Black wealth is not an option. It is a mandate of 1,000 Rosewoods, Tulsas, and Red Summers that continues, and America's forgotten legacies of hate, destruction, and shame. Black realities are not an option. They are mandated, born of viewing self through the lens of bigotry, sanctified through the fires of redemption, fueled with the blood of our saints martyred on the altars of indifference.
Ooh, that's powerful. That's powerful. Um, Tell me about, you said you were writing. I mean, what was your mind state when you started to write that? I mean, and let me ask you, how long ago? Is this like a freshly new piece, or is it something you revisited?
This is something I wrote about 2 years ago. Okay.
Okay.
Um, um, I found out as a teenager that I write a kind of poetry, prose, that pisses off folks. I learned that early, okay? I said, really?
It just stirs their spirit a little bit. And that's
Yeah,
okay.
okay. It's a gift, okay? And this here, I'm looking at the despair of our people. I'm looking at folks that are, you got Biden as president, and every day on the news you got Trump denying January 6th. You got Black on Black crime. You got Black failure in high schools, okay? Not graduating. You got the cradle to prison pipeline. And you've got individuals saying, well, it's not the system. Well, if it's not the system and the structure, then it must be something endemic within either the Black psychic or Black culture. Okay? People are making choices. All right? And I'm saying, no. On the one hand, it is a structure that denies Black realities. And it is an internalization of these negative ideas about Blackness. Okay? And so what I'm sitting up here saying, no, we have a mandate. We don't have a choice in terms of this. Okay? We and that begins by understanding how we got here, who we are, and there's not a damn thing that can stand in the way of us doing whatever we choose to do. Okay? You know what? Here's an interesting thing. If you look at the 200 plus years that we've been in this country and a deliberate attempt to destroy us, to deny us, to keep us in a box, yet every generation we break out of that box.
Yes.
Every generation we achieve remarkable accomplishments. We don't just survive, we thrive. Okay? That's our mandate. And that means that we have a spiritual destiny. We have, I don't care what you call it, God, a fate, whatever you choose to call it. Okay? We are ordained to greatness. Okay? And the forces of complacency and evil have one purpose: to deny that vision. And the only thing that can stop us from reaching our goal, that visionary space, is us.
Yeah.
Okay? That's why I said we have a mandate. Okay? And it's going to happen. Okay? Now, it might be like the children of Israel that had to wander for 40 years in the wilderness. Well, we might have to wander in this wilderness for 200, 300, 400 years. But guess what? Martin Luther King said it. We will reach that promised land. Okay?
Right.
Where what? Where our blessings are going to flow like a mighty river. Okay? All right? Why? Because our sacrifices over all of these years is our anointing. Okay? Okay? Used to be where you would have an animal that you would slaughter, and all religions have. Guess what? Our sacrifices are on the altars. Okay, that's our history. Okay, they have paid the sacrifice. They have paid it. Okay, and that's what our young people need to know. Okay, the bill has been paid. Okay,
right.
You have a mandate. You don't have an option to be successful. You don't have an option to work your ass off. Okay? You owe it. Okay? And success has already been decreed. That's what all this shit is about right now. Okay? It wants to confuse our young people. It wants to distort. It wants them to be stressed out. It wants them to choose. Why do you think they legalize marijuana? Here's an interesting thing. There are two constitutional amendments, the First and the Second Amendment. The first two. One, by the way, the freedom of speech and thought and press. The other one, the right to own and bear arms. Isn't it strange that we're restricting speech and knowledge, but we can't restrict guns? Which one has killed the most people? And which one are they most afraid of? They're not afraid of guns.
No. But they afraid of speech.
They're afraid of
freedom
speech.
of thought. Yeah.
So back to your question, what motivates me? Their fear. Okay? Oh, this is what you're afraid of? Us having this conversation? Really? Oh, let me tell you a story. Back in World War II, if we didn't have GPS and radar and all of that stuff, okay, pilots would essentially be flying almost blind, okay? How did the bombers know that they were over the target when they started getting shot at? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We must be over the target. We must be doing what we're supposed to be doing because we're getting shot at.
Oh, right.
Okay? They're trying to bring these planes down.
I see where you're going.
Okay?
All right. Yeah.
Okay? So we must be doing what we're supposed to be doing.
And that's why we're getting shot at.
That's why we're getting shot at. That's why they're banning the books. Okay? If they were inconsequential, why would the VA strip out 400 books dealing with blacks and Hispanics and others victorious actions in combat? Why would they be stripping those out? Why would they, throughout different departments, snatching down black pictures and history? Why would they be threatening student loans and Pell Grants? Why are they shutting down? Why is Harvard being threatened with $14 billion loss? Okay? Because you have the audacity to, one, drop standardized testing,
Yep.
and two, it's not about affirmative action. We're going to have a representative student body. Oh, no, we want you to only,
Right.
okay? And we can't have these blacks. Oh, one last thing. Look at the data. White men are being replaced in corporate leadership structures or graduation by women and women of color. You have a very strange motto at Miami University. You only hear it among males, both black and white.
Uh-huh.
It says, get a C, get a degree. Mediocrity, all I need to do is get a degree, and I know I'm going to get hired.
Get a C, get a degree.
Get a C, get a degree. Get a C, get a degree.
Wow.
Black women and white women are saying, I must be the best in order to get the job. Okay? I can't afford to be average.
No, we got to be excellent.
Got to be excellent. Our moms, I'm sure your mom said the same thing, raised us, dad too, raised us to say, you got to be twice as good.
Yep.
That's what got us over. D&I means definitely earned it. It means that our motto was, we have to be twice as good. Okay? This idea that you got this job because you were a person of color, you were black, that's bullshit. Excuse my French. Why? Because the number one beneficiary of affirmative action have been white women. White women.
Yep.
Okay? Not black men, not black women, but white women. Okay?
I think we're about 7%.
Yeah. So, but yet the only challenges to affirmative action has been on the basis of race. No one has ever challenged it in terms of gender. And there's this presumption that, you know what, we're hiring you only because you're black. I'm sorry, so you're saying that mediocrity is pervasive because of DE&I. Let me look at all these cabinet appointees that you've made. They certainly are representing the best that white male elite has to offer. That's That's pretty questionable. Okay.
It is. Wow. I would say one of the, you've already answered some of the questions I was going to ask you, but something that's more powerful, and we're going to make our way, to close out the conversation. But I just want to reiterate, you said we are already ordained for
Yes.
greatness.
Yes.
And I think that is a very powerful concept to hold on to maintain and preserve our peace and
Yes.
joy. So matter how we are being attacked, however we feel overwhelmed, or if we feel a sense of hopelessness, we must remain with the idea that we've already been ordained for
Yes.
greatness.
And the scriptures, by the way, say no weapon
Formed against me shall
Okay,
prosper.
there's a reason why we hold on to our faith. And again, you may be religious or you may not be religious, but every culture known to humanity has created a faith-based spirituality. I don't care what you call God, okay? Why? Because it helps you develop the shield, okay? Put on the whole armor, all right? Why? Because we're going to be in battle, okay?
Yep.
And guess what? Yes, some of us are going to fall, okay? But we can't be so worried about what's happening back there and what may fall out of the sky and hit us, because we will be standing here afraid to move.
Right.
No. You are mandated.
Black
Okay?
mandates. Yes,
All
sir.
right? You are victorious. Your name literally means victory. The only thing can stop you is you. No weapon.
Well, Rodney, I just want to thank you for taking the time to share not only your wisdom, your perspective, your artistry, as far as your poetry. I just wanted to let you know it means a lot to a lot of people. How you are impacting them either through social media when you post, or your articles that you are writing. You continue to be a brilliant example of us.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you dearly.
Thank you.
As we mitigate the day-to-day chaos, I encourage all of you to fight like hell to preserve your peace and your joy. Construct your toolkit to maintain clarity through our darkest hours. When I needed a calming presence to ground me, I sought out help. I saw a therapist, and the most profound thing was that my therapist, reminded me to have grace for myself, and that truly helped me. And eventually, I established a mental fitness regimen. Now, you got to find your own. I encourage you. Rodney talked about his writing and journaling. That might be one avenue of it. It might be music, of putting yourself in a place of calm. It might be, going to a spiritual source as well. But I encourage you to find and develop your own mental fitness regimen. I encourage you to do that. Much appreciation to my special guest, Dr. Rodney Coates, to my viewers and listeners. This is Got Time with Christopher John, your scholar and gentleman in a hoodie. Know thy history.